Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Santosh and here in my channel I discuss topics from physics and mathematics. As usual, today I'm here with one more new video for you guys, and this is the part 3 of video series on electric charges and fields. Guys, if you remember, in part 1 we discussed about charges and its types, and in part 2 we discussed about properties of these charges. And in this video we'll continue our discussion further and study the following topics. First, we will discuss how to turn a neutral body into a charged body. And next, we will see the classification of materials based on their ability to conduct electric charge. And after that, we will see the different methods of charging a body. And finally, we will end our discussion with electroscope, which is a simple device to detect the charge on the body. But before starting the discussion, I request you guys to watch the video until the very end. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also share this video with your friends. And finally, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click on the bell icon so that you will always be notified whenever I drop a new video. Guys, let us start our discussion with the term neutral body. We all know from its definition, neutral body has equal number of positive and negative charges in it. In other words, net charge on neutral body is 0. Now the question is how to turn this neutral body into a charged body. Answer is pretty simple and straightforward, which is make the number of positive and negative charges unequal. Then this body will have net positive or negative charge. To understand more about this process, consider a solid object and let us assume that this object is neutral. Since electrons and protons are the only charge carriers, then this neutral object must have equal number of protons and electrons. Now to make this object charged, we need to make number of protons and electrons unequal. Guys, this can be done by transferring some electrons or protons out of this object or into this object. But guys, it is not as simple as we think, because there is a difficulty in transfer of protons. We all know that protons are very heavy compared to electrons, and they are held in nucleus by a strong nuclear force, which is the strongest force in the nature. So that is why in solids the protons or the nuclei are not mobile. They are fixed to their locations. But the case of electrons is little different. They are lightweight and relatively free, especially if you are talking about electrons in the outermost orbit, which are known as valence electrons. They freely move within the material. To make you understand this, let me give you an analogy. Assume that the whole human body is a single atom, and the three main components of the human body, namely blood, bone and flesh, represent electron, proton and neutron respectively. We know that bones and flesh are heavy and are fixed to their locations, but the blood moves everywhere within the body just like electrons. So therefore, removing blood from the body is more easier compared to removing bone and flesh. So in the case of solids also, the only feasible option is to move electrons in and out of the body to make it charged. So then consider the case number 1, where we take some electrons from the solid object. After this, the number of protons in the body will be more than the number of electrons. So the net charge on the body is positive. In other words, what I can say is that the deficiency of electrons make a body positively charged. And in the second case, let us give some extra electrons to the solid object. Now we have more number of electrons compared to the protons. So the net charge on the body is negative. Again, in other words, what I can say is that excess of electrons make body negatively charged. Guys, from now on, whenever I refer to a body as positively charged, it means that there is the deficiency of electrons in it. Similarly, for negatively charged body, there will always be excess of electrons in it. Guys, now let us move to the next topic of our discussion, which is classification of materials. The criteria for classification is the ability of materials to conduct the electric charge. Guys, based on this criteria, we can classify materials into 3 categories, namely conductors, semiconductors and insulators. So let us look into these one by one. First, conductors. These are the substances which readily allow the passage of charge through them. The reason is, in these conductors, electrons are comparatively free to move inside the material. And one more property of conductor is, when some charge is given to conductor, it readily gets distributed over its surface. Examples of conductors are metals like copper, aluminium, silver. In fact, human body is a good conductor. Earth and seawater are few examples of conductors. Because of their property, conductors are used in making electric cable wires to transfer power from one station to another station. Next we have insulators. These are the substances which offer high resistance to passage of charge. Unlike conductors, if you put some charge on the insulators, the charge stays at the same place. It doesn't get distributed over entire surface. So few examples of insulators are plastic, glass, wood and air. Because of their property, insulators are used to provide safety from the electric current. And that is why you can see outer cases of many electrical appliances like TV, refrigerators and many others are made up of plastics to avoid shock in the case of fault. Finally, we have semiconductors. These materials offer resistance to movement of charges which is intermediate between conductors and insulators. Example, silicon, germanium. Because of this property, conductors are used in making devices like diodes and transistors where we can control and direct the flow of currents. Guys, now it is time to move to the third topic of today's discussion, which is methods of charging. Here we discuss three methods of charging. One, charging by friction, second, charging by conduction, and third, charging by induction. Let us discuss each method one by one. First, charging by friction. Guys, in this method we take two materials and rub them against each other, and after rubbing each body acquires equal and opposite charges. And the question is, how does this happen? Answer is pretty simple. Upon rubbing, one material loses electrons and the other gains electrons. The one loses the electrons becomes positively charged and the one gains electrons becomes negatively charged. And according to the conservation property, the charge on one material is equal to charge on other material, but both have different sign. Guys, if you look at this process, it feels as though the friction between two materials is what is producing the charge. But if you are thinking like that, you are wrong. In reality, the case is different, so don't get confused by the name. It turns out that some materials greedily attract the electrons and some materials ready to lose them. So rubbing works because it increases the contact points between the substances, facilitating the transfer of charge. In fact, there is a list of materials which is called triboelectric series. In this list, elements are ranked based on their ability to give or take electrons. If you take any two objects from that list which are not close to each other, you can easily charge them by rubbing. For example, if you take glass rod and silk cloth from that list which are sufficiently far apart from each other, upon rubbing, glass rod becomes positively charged and silk cloth gets negatively charged. This happens because glass rod is higher up in the list compared to the silk. Guys, what will happen if I take metal rod instead of glass rod? The answer is you will see no sign of charge. Does it mean no charges were created? Absolutely not. The charges that were created on the metal rod are passed through our body and discharged into the earth. The reason that all three materials, metal rod, human body and earth, are good conductors of electricity. So to avoid this discharge, use a metal rod with a plastic handle. Now the experiment works. Guys, now let us move to the second method of charging, which is charging by conduction. In this method, we take the charged object and bring that charged object in contact with uncharged object. Then the uncharged object will receive some of the charge from the charged object. For example, let us take an uncharged metal sphere. This metal sphere has a base stand made up of insulator to avoid the charge leakage. Now bring the charged object in contact with uncharged sphere. Then some charges will flow from the charged object to the metal sphere. When you take away the charged object, the metal sphere is left with the charge. Guys, if you observe this, at the end, both of these objects will have same type of charge. Whereas in the charging by friction, both objects involved will have opposite charges. Guys, finally, let us move to the third method of charging, that is charging by induction. Guys, in the first and second method of charging, one thing was common. In both the cases, the contact between two materials was necessary. But this method, that is charging by induction, does not involve contact between charged and uncharged bodies. And let us try to understand this process by performing following experiment. Step number 1. Bring two uncharged metal spheres A and B in contact with each other and make sure that these two spheres are supported on an insulating stand to avoid charge leakage. Step number 2. Bring a charged rod near one of the spheres as shown in the figure. Charge on the rod can be positive or negative. Now let us assume that here we have taken a rod that is positively charged and make sure that it does not touch the sphere. Now what happens is that the free electrons from both the spheres are attracted to the rod, because we all know that opposite charges attract each other. These electrons start accumulating at the end near to the rod, and at the far end of the sphere B, due to deficiency of the electrons, that points become positively charged. Important thing to note is that both kind of charges are bound to the metal sphere and they cannot escape. However, this redistribution of charges takes place until the equilibrium is reached, and after that no electron moves towards the rod because already accumulated electrons repel new electrons. Now step number 3. Separate the sphere by a small distance while rod is still held near the sphere A. Now the sphere A has negative charge due to excess of electrons and sphere B has positive charge due to deficiency of electrons. Step number 4. Remove the rod and charges will redistribute themselves as shown in the figure. And as a final step, separate the spheres quite apart and the charges on them will get uniformly distributed all over the surface. And now we have successfully charged two bodies. Guys, in this process we need to note two important points. Point number 1, the glass rod does not lose any of the charge. And point number 2, two metal spheres have equal and opposite charges. Now the question is, can we charge a single metal sphere without touching it? And the answer is yes. For that, let us conduct one more experiment. Step number 1, take an uncharged sphere on an insulating stand. Step number 2, bring charged rod near the sphere. Again, you can take positive or negative charge, but here we have taken positively charged rod. Once again, the free electrons in the sphere are attracted to the rod and they start accumulating at the end near to the rod. Due to deficiency of the electrons, the far end becomes positively charged, and what you are seeing is the distribution of the charges at equilibrium. Now step number 3, connect the sphere to the ground by a conducting wire. Then what happens is that electrons will flow from the ground to a metal sphere because positive charges on the sphere attract the electrons from the ground. And these electrons will nullify the positive charge and that part of the sphere becomes neutral. Step number 4, disconnect the sphere from the ground, but the electrons are still there at the end near to the rod because of the attractive force. Step number 5, finally take the rod away from the sphere and these electrons will spread all over the surface of the sphere. Finally, we have a charged sphere. Guys, again you need to note two important things from this experiment. Number 1, if the rod is positively charged, then the sphere gets negatively charged. Similarly, if the rod is negatively charged, then the sphere gets positively charged. Point number 2, in both the cases, the earth provides the extra charge. Then the question is, what happens to earth when it gives or takes some charge? Guys, earth is a sea of electrons. So taking or giving some electrons to earth does not make any difference. In fact, when we bring charged body in contact with earth, all the excess charges will flow to earth. This process of sharing the charges with earth is called as earthing or grounding. Guys, this process has a huge practical importance. The earthing provides the safety for electrical circuits and appliances. And I will give you one example of it. Guys, the electric wiring in our houses has 3 wires, namely live wire, neutral wire and earth wire. The first 2 carry the electric current from the power station and the third wire is connected to earth by a metal plate buried inside the ground. If you observe carefully, you will notice that almost all the electrical appliances will have plugs with 3 pins and the sockets will also have these 3 holes. 2 pins of the plug are connected to live and neutral wire and the third pin is connected to the ground wire. The reason is that most of the appliances are made up of metallic parts and whenever a fault occurs or a live wire touches these metal parts, then the leaked current is immediately passed to the earth. Otherwise, it would damage the appliance or cause an injury to a person who touches that appliance. So in this case, earth comes to rescue us from this danger. So earth is truly our safety net. With this, we have completed all 3 methods of charging, and now let us move to the last topic of this video, which is the electroscope. Guys, it is a simple device to detect a charge on the body. As you can see from the figure, it consists of a metal rod placed in the box. And this metal rod has 2 thin metal leaves attached to its bottom. In our case, these leaves are made up of gold. When a charged body touches the upper part of the metal rod, then the charge flows through the rod and these leaves will also receive some of the charge. And due to force of repulsion, these leaves diverge, and the degree of the divergence is the indicator of amount of charge. More the divergence, it indicates more is the charge on the object. You can also find the nature of charge from this device, that is whether the given charge is positive or negative. For that, first we need to charge the electroscope with the known charge, whether it is positive or negative. Let us say we have touched the electroscope with a positively charged object A. Then leaves will diverge because they receive the positive charges from the object A, and due to the force of repulsion, the leaves of the electroscope diverge. Now we have an object B whose charge is unknown. Touch the electroscope with the object B. If the divergence increases, it means that the charge on B is positive. Because leaves will receive some more positive charge, and due to force of repulsion, the divergence increases. But if the divergence reduces, the charge on B is negative, because the negative charges will nullify the positive charges on the electroscope, and due to force of attraction, the divergence reduces. Guys, with this we come to an end of this video, and thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next video.